It's unlikely, but it's possible that you still might have not heard about the new end of round procedure rules that just got announced a couple weeks ago. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about my experience and also others' experience at YCS New Jersey, because that was the first event where those new rules were in effect, and that was sort of the guinea pig event. And I'm going to talk about if they worked, if they didn't work, and what they can do going forward, they being Konami, to actually make an impact on this game in a positive way. Because if you haven't watched the video where I discuss it, or if you haven't watched any videos of people discussing it, because pretty much the general consensus here is that it's a terrible change, but we really didn't know until an event happened. And if you watched that video, please allow me to briefly summarize it for the people that didn't watch it. Basically, the new time rules, well, the old time rules are that when you went into time, you played 5 turns. Whoever had the most life points won that game, and that was the way that it had been done for years, like literally a decade. That's how the end of round went every single time. And now they changed it, or I mean, for the foreseeable future, I guess. When the round ends, when time is called, and here's how it worked at YCS New Jersey. When time is called, they stopped the clock. Whatever phase you were in, you had to pause. You just froze. That's what you're supposed to do. You just froze. And in that case, you would look at the life points when time was called, exactly the exact second. You'd look at the life points at the end of that phase, and that was the game. So what that meant is that if you were in your draw phase, that's you have no chance to do any plays. If you were in your main phase setting up a huge board for the battle phase, too bad, you don't get to enter the battle phase. Even if you have game on board, they don't care, it doesn't matter. And this is how it was ran at YCS New Jersey. I went there, I played all 9 rounds on the first day, which means that I have a pretty good insight into how that actually went. Did it help? No, it didn't help at all. If in that video where I discussed it, and in a lot of videos, people pointed out that the reason that this change was made was to make rounds end faster. Because if you haven't been to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, a bigger Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, you might not know this, but the rounds have a 40-minute timer, and then what happens is that it goes in a time, and people were playing those 5 turns. Now, pretty much every single regional you went to, pretty much every YCS you went into, you could assume that for any given round, after the 40 minutes was called, you were going to spend anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes waiting for the next round to happen, for this round to end, because that's the time when people were playing out those 5 turns. And I liked this. Some people didn't. I think it turns off a lot of new players that go to their first event. They don't realize that it's like from 10 in the morning to like 10 at night. But here's the thing. From all the time that I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh!, I just assumed that if I was going to a regional, I was just going to be there all day. Many times I would drive to another city. Does it really make a difference if you're there for 12 hours versus like 8 hours? In my opinion, and in many others' opinions, while that might make a slight difference, it's not worth cutting out the 5-turn time rule, because it really takes a lot of control away from the players. That's pretty much what I talked about in the video from last week. Here's what happened. I'm going to put on the screen right now. Here's how long each round went into time. Now, I do apologize. I did not stick around for the end of round 9. I'm just going to assume that it went along with the rest of them. And what you can see, man, it went into time just the same amount. Like, maybe it was a little faster, like just a little bit, like maybe 10 minutes per round were faster than it would have been. But overall, like, I think in that other video that I made, I mentioned that I thought that the rounds would only last like 5 or 10 minutes past the 40-minute mark, but I was wrong. I was so wrong. I think everyone was wrong. Like, I mean, the whole reason they did this was not to give more control to the players. It does the exact opposite. So therefore, the only reason that we can assume they did this was to help out the staff, was to help out the judges, and actually end the tournament faster. And yeah, that helps the players a little bit, but not at what cost, right? Like, it speeds up the tournament, but it also takes a ton of control away from the players. So is it worth it? Well, it ended up doing everything badly. Not only were the players pissed, and boy were they pissed, not only did that happen, but also the tournament didn't end any sooner. I think I left round 9 at around 10 o'clock on Saturday, which I would not call very early, and I didn't stick around for the end of it, which means that it probably went to like 11 o'clock, and that's pretty much what it always went to. Here's why. So what was happening in those 30 to 40 minutes after the round ended if people were only playing one phase? Well, from personal experience, because one of the only times that I went into time throughout the tournament, full disclosure, I went into time twice. Once in my feature match in round 7, and then once in a regional flight, but I'll talk about that in a second with one of the problems about the new time procedure. But in the main tournament, I never went into time besides that feature match, and I did play a little bit faster sometimes just to not go into time. But one of the times that I was still playing a match when time was called was because at the 9-minute mark left in round, I appealed a judge ruling, and it took, I'm not kidding you, so at 9 minutes left in the round, I appealed a judge call, and I ended up being right, by the way. But I appealed a judge call at 9 minutes left in the round. It took until 20 minutes into time for that head judge to come up, and he read the situation, he read the cards, and in like 15 seconds he gave us the ruling. Now, if you haven't been to an event, basically what an appeal is that anytime you ask a ruling of a regular judge at an event, if you don't feel that they ruled it correctly, you can call a head judge, and the head judge's ruling is final. I was 99.9% sure that I was correct, so I appealed. I ended up being right, but we had to wait 30 minutes for that judge to get there. And that was why every single round went so much into time, because you used to have the people playing their games. You used to have them playing those 5 turns once time was called. But now you have like 100 appeals as soon as time is called, because I didn't have the issue because I didn't go into time very often, but so many times there'd be a discrepancy between someone saying, like, there was one case in particular that's pretty well known on the Facebook right now, on the Zodiac Duelist Facebook group right now, because it had 2 pretty well known players. And what happened was some guy set up a huge board, and then they knew time was going to be called, and he just extended the handshake and said, "Good game." And then when time was called, his opponent said, "Well, you didn't say you entered battle phase." Now, luckily, his opponent ended up just saying, "Okay, I'm not going to like shark you on that." But that's a scenario that was very common. Or with Trick Stars, you could like be playing kind of slow, right? Kind of slow when the time in the round is about to end, and then you pass with a Lycoris with 15 seconds left. Your opponent draws, takes 200 or maybe even 400 with the light stage, and then before they have a chance to make any plays, you suddenly have the time and round called, and the game's over, and you win the match. That's one thing that happened. The other thing that happened is so many draws. Like, oh my gosh. I know that Simo posted the draw breakdown. I'll try to find a picture of it. But basically, at the round 1 of the YCS New Jersey, 16% of the field had a draw. I think at the end of the tournament, at the end of Swiss, 28% of people had a draw. That's like, that's never happened. Like, the draws are not supposed to be that much. I think the next biggest one, I don't have the list pulled up right now, but I believe the next biggest one on Simo's list was like 8%, which is less than half. And well, wait, I said 6. I think it was 16 or 18 for the draws for round 1. But if it was a 16, it was exactly half. If it was 18, obviously less than half. But anyway, there were so many draws, because what would happen is someone would enter the game 3, and they would like play out their big combo, and then time would be called, and no one had done any damage, therefore it's a draw. And that happened so much more than it would have happened at the old style of time and match call, because you would play 5 turns. Someone would probably take some damage in 5 turns. It's almost uncalled for. It's almost impossible to not have someone take damage in those turns. Even if they're both playing pretty defensively, someone on that last turn, especially like the 5th turn, will want to poke for like 200 damage to actually kill their opponent. So that's kind of like the main thing that happened at YCS New Jersey was new time rule. It didn't work. It pissed off players. It didn't help out the judges. It didn't help out the staff. So who's it for? I don't know. If you want to let me know who you think it's for, please post it in the comment sections below. But also, I want to mention a huge issue, just like one of the worst things about this. This doesn't work for side events. It literally does not work. It also doesn't work for regionals that don't have clocks. But let's focus on side events, because I played in 2 regional flights. If you've never been to a regional flight, it's a 16-person tournament. It's single elimination, so you have to win 4 in a row to get your invite. No one else gets their invite, and all that kind of stuff. The problem is that different people are starting at different times past round 1, which means the judge gives you, they tell you what time your round ends, and if you're not looking at your phone clock as soon as the timer ticks over, that's going to screw you up. Because now it matters the exact second you go into the time, not the exact minute. A lot can change from like 4:40 to like 4:40 and 58 seconds. Like that, a whole minute is a long time in Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot can change there. it didn't work. So many discrepancies happened in the regional flights where people didn't know how much time was left in round, where people were calling phases or not calling phases, and they had to call a judge over. So many issues, in fact, that they had to make up their own rules for the first regional flight that I was in, and then they went back on them, I guess, by the end of the, because I played in like the fourth regional flight of the day, and then I also played in the last regional flight of the day because I went to the finals of the fourth one, which meant that even though it started at like 11, it meant that they were almost done taking the regional flight registration. But anyway, they changed it to something that wasn't on any documents, because for that regional flight only, they were doing like a modified version of the top cut end of match procedures. So if you went into time and players were tied in life points, you then played 4 turns for no reason, and then whoever had more life points after those 4 turns won the match. That's like a modified version of the top cut one. It's definitely not what you're supposed to do in the Swiss rounds, and I guess that makes sense because like the regional flights aren't Swiss rounds, but that was just like made up on the spot, and it seemed like, because my opponent in the first round had played in a previous regional flight that morning at like 10, he said that tournament didn't use that, and then when I played in the last regional flight, it also didn't do that. So many issues. Like if they make a ruling change like this end of match procedure, and it's so bad that they have to edit it for side events specifically, that doesn't make any sense. Like, it's horrible. I'm hoping Konami will go back on this decision. If you want them to hear your voice, don't be mean, don't swear at them, all that kind of stuff. Just send them an email at the Konami support and just voice your opinion, because at the end of the day, Konami needs us. If no one's buying cards, they can't sell cards, and they'll go out of business. Well, Konami won't go out of business, but that division of their company will go out of business. They need us, and they need us happy and enjoying the game. Please, if you want to stand up against this time procedure, especially if you played at YCS New Jersey, because so many fans come up to me, and I always ask them, how do you feel about these end of match procedures? All of them basically said they're awful, and I think pretty much I didn't talk to a single person that actually liked them, because before the event happened, I thought that most of the judges at least were saying that they liked them because the tournament would go faster, but at the end of the event, because we know the tournament didn't go faster, and actually in some cases was way more complicated because of that, and because the players already hated it, I have no idea who these end of match procedures are supposed to benefit. But anyway, that is going to wrap up this video. Thank you for letting me ramble about YCS New Jersey and these end of match procedures. What do you think about these? And especially if you played at an event last weekend, I don't know if there were any regionals running, but definitely at YCS New Jersey, if you played in that, how did it go for you? Did you ever go into time? Did you win? Did you lose? Just let me know your feedback for this, because I think I want to know the community's opinion on these new end of match procedures, especially if you've played them already. I'll wrap up the video there though. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have my deck profile from the event tomorrow. I did make day 2 with Altergeist. I was pretty happy about it, and I can't wait to show you that as well. So I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.